This episode of the Local Hustlers podcast is brought to you by Audible. If you're listening to this podcast right now, then I'm going to assume that you would also enjoy listening to audiobooks. Whether you're interested in business, history, comedy, science fiction, or romance, Audible has thousands of titles for you to choose from. We want you to try out Audible for free, so if you head to our link, you'll get a 30-day free trial and a free book. So go to audibletrial.com/localhustlerspodcast to redeem your trial today. Again, that's audible, AUDIBLE, trial.com/localhustlerspodcast.
You're listening to the Local Hustlers Podcast, your go-to source for connecting with small businesses and entrepreneurs in the East Valley. Get ready to be inspired by local entrepreneurs as they share their stories, mindset, best tips, and advice. And now, your co-hosts, Dallin and Eric Huso.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Local Hustlers Podcast. This week, we're super excited to be here with Brian Webb of Phx Lechon Roasters. How's it going, Brian?
It's going great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, super excited to have you on. Take a few minutes before we jump into the business and give us a little background on your life.
Yeah, I've been cooking professionally for about 20 years. I'm originally from Northern California. I moved out here in about 2001 to attend culinary school, planning on moving back to the Bay Area after I graduated school, and that was 20 years ago. So now I'm really established in Phoenix and really enjoy Arizona.
Nice. So got out to the heat and never looked back.
Yeah, I don't know if I enjoy the heat, but everything else.
So you've always had your mind set on going to culinary school and being a chef, or how did that come about?
Well, I was actually selling stereo equipment when I was like 19 years old, making a pretty decent amount of money for a 19-year-old at that time. I just wasn't getting the gratification from what I was doing. There was really nothing I wanted to continue doing. And then I got fired, and I didn't have a choice to continue doing it. And it kind of made me think, it's kind of a turning point of where I wanted to go. And I always cooked for myself at home and had barbecues and friends over. So I originally wanted to go to culinary school and open up a deli. That was the kind of the original game plan. I also had worked at a deli, and then that kind of turned into what we're doing now.
So it's amazing how many businesses start from somebody losing their job and that awful moment. I'm sure you were probably devastated at the time. Take us back to that moment where you did lose your job and what your mindset was and kind of the thought processes you went through, going through the ups and downs of those emotions and feelings, and how you were able to clear that emotion to get the clarity to say, hey, this is my path forward now.
Well, it's kind of funny because it happened twice. It's been twice in my life where I got fired at pivotal points that really benefited me. Another point was when my wife was 5 months pregnant and we had to offer her on a house. So when stuff happens, is when you have those challenges, is really what are you going to do? You're going to sit home and cry? Or are you going to take the opportunity to do something? The second time, I met my wife, we got married in 2008, and we had plans on opening up a Filipino-style business. She was pregnant, we had put an offer in on a house, so the time wasn't really right. And we were planning, the game plan was going to be like a year down the road, maybe 2 years down the road, maybe 3, maybe not at all,
Yeah.
And then
someday.
Someday.
Yeah.
It's like I was determined, but my wife's pregnant. We have an offer in on a house, so we had to take care of that first. And then I got fired. And within 15 days, we were in the Philippines doing research on the food. And now we didn't have time to start the business because now it's like we can't get the house now because I'm not employed. And I'm burned out. It wasn't the best job, and I just got fired. I'm kind of beaten down a little bit. So now I was in a rush to start the business. Now it's the opportunity, so I really had to jump on it. And that was the first business, which was a Hey Joe Filipino food truck. And we ran that for about four years in town.
That's cool.
That's cool. Yeah, so I'm sure there's a lot we can dive into there. My first question is, where did the idea come from to start a Filipino style business?
Yeah, my wife is originally from Cebu, Philippines, or
Okay.
Lapu-Lapu City, right across from Cebu. And I met her here at the time I was working at a Pacific Rim restaurant in a hotel. At that time, Pacific Rim was kind of like the big deal in town. We had 5 menus, foie gras, like 20 kinds of beurre blanc sauces, so we did a lot of different Asian food in Pacific Rim. You know, you pull from Korean, you pull from Thai, you pull from Vietnamese food. You don't pull from Filipino food. Not a single Filipino ingredient was in that kitchen. And then I met her, and then I became a head chef at a sushi restaurant. I worked under Han-Wook Lee, a very talented chef. I was in charge of the kitchen, and it was more of a higher-end sushi restaurant. And then we flew over, my wife Margita and I flew over to her hometown for our wedding. And the flavors had just something I never experienced in my life. It was just a complete culinary awakening. And I'd had some Filipino food here, but when it's prepared the way it's supposed to be prepared, with the right ingredients and with the love and labor that's put into it, you know, in the Philippines, it's a lot easier to put labor into the food, as the labor is a lot cheaper. Do you know? So the food can be more laborious, and sometimes it's hard to duplicate that here.
Kind of like when you go to Taco Bell or Del Taco and expect some authentic Mexican food.
Right. And there's a place for everything. I mean, that's why Taco Bell, I'm not going to really tell you guys my first culinary job, but Taco Bell has its place.
Right, yeah, for sure. Awesome. I love your stories of getting fired and how these huge, what could be looked at as negative moments, ended up being super positive things and changing your life. And obviously looking back, you can see how good of a thing that was, but I'm sure in the moment, especially the first time around, it wasn't that easy to go through in the moment. What I'm wondering is that second time around, when that happened, did you have a better perspective because of that first time when you were younger being fired, or was it still, you know, just as hard to go through it and being in the moment?
To be honest, it was kind of a relief. It was kind of like the unresponsible choice would be to start the business, and that's the choice I wanted to do. But that wasn't the right choice, and I picked the right choice. So now when the unresponsible choice was presented to me, let's do it. Let's jump right on top of it, you know, because now the responsible choice has been taken off. So now, like, I've already lost that opportunity. So now by doing the business, I'm not losing the opportunity of getting the house, which is the responsible choice, you know.
Were there any other factors that were, before losing the house, that were kind of holding you back from starting the business? Had you, because you said it was, you know, in a sense irresponsible, had you like ran some numbers and you weren't sure about the profit, or were you just kind of nervous about, you know, the idea of going in all on your own? What were some of the things going through your head that were kind of stopping you from moving forward?
You know, there was a lot of the unknown. Can I do it? You know, a little bit of self-doubt.
Yeah. And
we're cooking Filipino food. We're not cooking hamburgers out of a truck. It's also like, is this going to be a proven concept? But I went into it more of a passion project as opposed to a business. You know, I went into it more as, if this fails, I can get a job in the kitchen and provide for my family. Mm-hmm. So at the end, I had a plan in case I didn't make it. At the end of the day, the most important job is to provide for your family. And at that time, I mean, it's a little different now, but at that time, if you were a cook, you could get a job anywhere, or you can always be employed. Yeah. So I knew that even if this business totally failed, then that was a food truck, then I could fall back on something, on my craft, and still be able to make money.
So talk to us about the decision to open the food truck as opposed to a brick and mortar restaurant, and how that was the right thing to do for you at the time.
So we're not a restaurant right now. We're a catering company. We work out of a shared kitchen, and we do different pop-ups and stuff. But with the food truck, you know, it was kind of a beatdown too. A food truck's really hard. It is a lot harder than working in the kitchen. Food truck is like dog years. 1 year in a food truck and 7 years in the kitchen. It is a beat down. It is not easy. And I was beat down. I started to get, and I hit a glass ceiling to where like I didn't see the business was going to expand anymore. And my plan was always to be in the food truck 4 years, and kind of it was a limitation with what the food I wanted to do because it's a small space, and I was kind of burned out, so we stopped doing it. And then I always I became a chef at different restaurants, and I always had a Filipino special on the menu, whether the owner knew about it, and sometimes it was only special if I was working. And I was working at a ramen shop, and this is how the Phx Lechon Roasters came about. I was working at the restaurant, and I convinced my wife to let me buy a charcoal rotisserie grill. I'm the type of husband where you could tell me no like 10 times, and the second you tell me yes, I'm on the phone, credit card is paid. So,
well, at least you wait for yes. That's
yeah.
better than some.
No. I just need the yes, and I'm a smart man, and I react quick
before they change their mind, right?
Yeah.
Really quick.
Some ask for forgiveness rather than permission, so you're at least one step ahead.
We just celebrated our 12th year anniversary, so. So I found a charcoal rotisserie grill for fun to really cook chickens and cook some pigs at home for the family. I always continued cooking Filipino food at home. And I was working at a ramen shop, and I talked to an owner, and he was down to do a pig roast one day at the ramen shop. So we picked a Wednesday in March. It was 2019, and about 10 people had already said they were coming. And then I realized it was on Ash Wednesday, which is a big Catholic holiday, of course. And a lot of Filipinos, being a large Catholic country, don't eat pork on Ash Wednesday. So I felt like pretty dumb about doing that and not realizing what had happened. But the ball was rolling, and some people had already planned on coming, so I couldn't stop it. And we sold out of a 50-pound pig in 15 minutes that day. It was insane.
Wow.
And at that point, my entrepreneur spirit before that was gone. I had no plans after doing the food truck, hitting the glass ceiling with that business. Maybe I had caused that glass ceiling to, looking back, that's definitely a possibility. But my entrepreneur spirit was done with. I had no plans on going into business for myself. I was really happy collecting that steady paycheck. But when we sold out that pig in 15 minutes, I knew I had something, and that spirit got lit like with a bomb. It blew up in me, and it was the worst thing that ever happened because I knew right then I was going to quit that job, and I was very happy there. And I wanted to give the job one more year because I wanted to be there a total of 3 years. And we had a plan of flying to the Philippines. And I was going to originally open the Lechon place in the Philippines and kind of like cut my chops over there for a couple weeks, come back, work at the ramen shop for another 8 months, quit, start the business. Well, my wife and family were on an airplane landing in Cebu at the exact time I got into a motorcycle accident and broke my knee. And I got laid out. I was unable to walk for about 2 months. And I was completely beaten down. Like, I didn't know if I was going to be able to work in a kitchen again, So now, like, I'm not even thinking. It's not even thinking about the business. I'm thinking about surviving. I was kind of, my wife and kids are in the Philippines, and they had some personal tragedy. Her mom passed away at that time too, and her dad had passed away a year before, so I couldn't ask them to come back early. So I spent a month with my friends and my family kind of helping me out, but not with my wife and kids. And, it was depressing, a lot of isolation and stuff. But then at the same time, now it changed me. Because then when my wife came back and my kids, I was unable to work. I was unable to walk. And, I never spent that much time with my family. Being a chef, you work 70, 80, 90 hours a week, and you wear that on your chest as a pride. And maybe a lot of entrepreneurs do that. I work this many hours.
Yeah.
And then after I spent that time with my family, I kind of realized that's not what it's all about. And that my first role is being a dad and being a husband, not being a chef, not being an entrepreneur. But I still had this, the lechon that I knew was going to be huge. So I went back to work in the ramen shop in a wheelchair, kind of like delivering like 4 hours a week, trying to rehabilitate myself. But I was over it, just totally over it. And I ended up quitting, and then it breaking my knee, just like losing my job, sped up the process of starting the business. Because now it's like, I got to do something. It's like, I can hardly walk. I don't know how am I going to go work for somebody, you know? So I started to get the ball rolling. I ended up taking a job in a country club. But then I did the business. And it was kind of a personal rehabilitation for myself. Here I am coming off of a broken leg, picking up 50-pound pigs. And it was hard, really hard in the beginning. I mean, it's still a little bit hard with the knee, but in the beginning, it was like really hard.
Tough.
Yeah. But in life, it's those times when you get beaten down the most. That is when you got to find the reason why you got beaten down. You know, there's a good reason why. There's a positive reason. In any negative situation that happens in your life, you got to be able to figure out how to turn it around and pull out the positivity out of it. So breaking my knee, I was like, I don't need to give this guy 3 years. You know, I mean, I quit. He fired me when I was in the hospital. You know, so I don't owe him nothing now. So now I don't have to give him that extra 8 months that I wanted to, because he fired me. It doesn't matter that my knee's broken, but I mean, I couldn't work, so that's obviously why. But it took out that loyalty that I had, kind of got taken out. So it was more like F everybody. Now it's time for me to do it for myself. Yeah. I don't need to put my dreams on hold because I think I owe somebody else something. That, you know, when the relationship, when my value goes out, then the relationship ends. Well, take care of yourself and do it for yourself.
So obviously, there's a lot of people out there that wear that badge of honor, working 70, 80, 90 hours a week. They feel out of alignment,
yeah,
right? That, you know, they're what they say they value, their, you know, those loved relationships aren't getting the time necessary to be nurtured. Without having to break your knee to recognize that. Any advice you'd give to somebody in a similar boat that's just out there busting their tail and they're just feeling out of alignment with what they really value?
Yeah, it's find a way to turn it off, just for a tiny bit, if you can. You know, it's really hard. I mean, it's easy to say that. I work in my sleep. My wife tells me I call out tickets in my sleep. It's like, I mean, so sometimes, you know, I'm yelling, hey, we need a pork belly. And my wife's like, shut up, you're in bed. So, I mean, it's tough to turn it off, but I think, like, the stress. I mean, I had a bad day the other week where I was a little bit late on a pretty big party, and it was really stressful. But when you prioritize yourself, and you realize at the end of the day, you know, I'm cooking food. I'm not a doctor. It's not, even though I take great pride in what I do, at the end of the day, you know, my main priority is my family. And then that helps me succeed more in business because it kind of takes the stress a little bit off of it, you know, as opposed to, oh no, I'm 90 hours. This is me. This is who I am. You know, it's part of me, but it's not who I am. You know, I was talking to somebody at the end of the day, when I die, it's not going to say Lechon Roaster on my grave. You know, it's going to say father and it's going to say husband. It's not going to mention Phx Lechon Roasters.
And there's always more you can do. You're even calling out orders in your sleep, which is hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I did that in the food truck, and then when I didn't have my own business, that was good. And then it started up again. I'm not proud of it.
So how do you keep yourself in check now? Because the path of least resistance is to work more, right? And there's always more work to do. There's always something to do when you own your own business. So do you have any things in place to check yourself to make sure that you're providing proper time to the business and proper time to the family?
You know, I'm kind of Yes, but in an unorganized, chaotic way, just like internally in my brain. I'm not really like one to like write a list. You know, I never put the to-do list on my to-do list, so it never really gets done. But I keep it all internally. But like today, I had a little bit of free time, so I took my son to the park. I have a 4-year-old son, and he had a great time. And it is hard. I have a 10-year-old son too, and you know, I try to explain to him I'm working. And we just had a conversation today about it where he feels like I don't give him enough attention when I work. And to be honest, there's no playbook on how to balance that out. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to balance it out. And I don't know how to really, but try to control the business and not let the business control me. And we're kind of in a fortunate position to where, you know, we're a super small business. It's pretty much me and and my wife, and I have a few people that help me out. But the majority of the time, it's myself cooking all the food. Or if we're doing like a pickup, it's really just kind of by myself, especially with everything, the pandemic and everything, and having to kind of hunker down. But we're in a position where we have more demand that we can keep up with right now. So as opposed to trying to do every single order that comes in, you know, I tell people no. I don't want to tell people no. But at the same time, I know if I work an 18, 19-hour day, and then the very next day I'm supposed to roast somebody a pig, I'm not going to do that great of a job. And my business is going to suffer in the long run. So I try to keep the business level to where I can handle it. And then I'm hiring people and trying to let it grow organically without it being like a monster. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's so hard to keep the business from turning into a monster.
Right.
And then you become to hate the business. And then it suffers. You know, you start to hate. We have a lot of interaction with customers, and you know, you start to hate the customers. You know, oh, it's this, and at that point you're doomed. Yeah. You know, once that becomes your mindset, that the customers are. You know, I just had a customer apologize to me the other day. I'm like, don't apologize to me. You're giving me money. That's not how this relationship works out. Never apologize to give me money. You know, because I mean, I'm grateful for every single customer we have, and you have to keep that mentality and keep your head above the water, because everybody gets stressed, and if you pass that on, you know, whether it's to your family and stuff. So I'm kind of going off, but to keep the balance, it's a difficult process.
Yeah, it is. So you're actually in the state of hiring people right now, bringing people on to grow the business a little bit so that you can meet this demand that you're currently facing?
We're trying. You know, one thing that's changed to me, it's tough to work during the summer. I always cooked a pig on site, and it's really hot. And I got to the point where even if I can make money, I don't want to work to the point where I'm about to pass out and throw up. You know, I don't want to. I don't want to take years off of my life. And that actually happened. The 4th of July, we had a super busy service. One of my busiest service I've ever had, including in the food truck. Served 150 plates in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Extremely busy. And I almost passed out in the middle of the rush. I walked in the bathroom, washed my face. My cashier got sick at the end. She powered through. And before in the food truck, it's like, yeah, man, I almost passed out. And now it's like, I'm not doing that. You know, I'm not. And it goes back to I'm a father first. I have to do what's right as a father. And, you know, so now that it's cooling down, now we have more and more stops lined up. Now it's kind of, let's turn the switch on the business. I've been fortunate because I've been focusing a lot on the catering aspect, so which I could do in the kitchen. I mean, don't get me wrong, at the end of the day, if I have to go out and cook in 110 degrees, I'm going to have to go out and cook in 110 degrees. You got to provide for your family. But if I'm fortunate enough to where I can survive doing the catering side, and now that's cooling down, it's time to turn that light switch on. And now it's hard because you have to have the stops to get the crew, but you have to have the crew to get the stops. You know, you have the hours to get the workers, but the workers to be able to have those hours, because I'm not ramped up to that level yet.
A lot of people in general, but especially entrepreneurs, kind of feel their self-worth from, you know, working those heavy hours and almost passing out after work every day. And it sounds like you've shifted from that more to feeling your self-worth from your family, if that's correct. I guess what's the key to making that shift, other than having, you know, a life-altering event that kind of forces you into it?
That's a good question. I mean, I guess it would just be your mental headspace, really, and prioritizing what your real priorities are. You know, at the end of the day, what is it going to say on your gravestone? You know, that's the most important part. And I truly think with that aspect, it's allowing me to take this business further than I was able to take the food truck business. You know, I kind of touched on how I thought I hit that glass ceiling. The thing with the food truck is I worked in that business. I hardly worked on the business. You know, I was, oh yeah, I'm working. We're doing this, that. I'm doing it myself. I was so proud that truck never ran in the 4 years. It only operated 30 minutes without me in it. And then when I worked at the ramen shop, we were talking about mentors before the show, Josh Hebert, the owner of the ramen shop. Even though I got fired when I broke my knee, I learned a lot of management from him. And after learning from him, it was stupid of me. That's not a business. It's not a point of pride that the business could not operate in 4 years for more than 30 minutes without me physically in it. You know?
Yeah, you owned a job.
Right, exactly. And at that point, I was happy doing that because it was more passion, and I was less of a businessman, I would say. So being able to change my mindset, you know, I want to get to the point where this business can operate without me.
Yeah.
And then I can duplicate it, and then I can duplicate it again, and keep the quality up, and then, you know, really provide for my family at the end of the day.
That's super interesting. So being able to focus on your family allows you to grow the business even more, because it's for them and it's not just, you know, its own thing. There's a deeper purpose behind it.
It kind of helps you keep your headspace a little bit. And, you know, I mean, I'm very passionate about what I do, but when you don't work, when you spend more, it's hard. Like when you focus working on your business, it's a lot less stressful.
For sure. Well, I love how you've taken all of these potentially negatively life-altering events in life and turned them into such positives. Were you taught that growing up, or do you feel like you're just kind of born with that mindset? Because not a lot of people, you know, have that and are able to turn those events around.
No, I was orphaned when I was 17 years old, so it was a pretty life-altering experience, and it took me about 10 years to realize what positivity came out of it. And at the end of the day, it made me a stronger person, and it made me like, I don't care, like I'm going to do what I'm going to do. You know, regardless if somebody doubts me. Everybody doubted me with this business. I'm the only licensed person in the 5th largest city who roasts pigs Filipino style over charcoal. You know how many chefs doubted me? Like, is there enough business for that? Like, because nobody does it.
Yeah.
Like, what are you thinking? You know, so like, going through that was completely life-altering experience when I was 17 years old, and really being able to take such a negative thing and a very dramatic experience to myself, and, you know, realizing that it did make me a stronger person, and it did make me be able to stand up for myself, and it did make me, when people doubt me, like, I don't care, you know. I've had people doubt me my whole career, whole culinary experience. The first time I got a chef job when I went to work for Han Wook Lee as the head chef at the kitchen, at the sushi restaurant. I was working at a hotel as a saucier, not in a management position. And when I left, the chef I called him an asshole because he told me I had no right to take that job. And I was at that place for 2.5 years, and Hunwick Lee was the one that made me a chef. He's the one that changed my mindset from cook to chef. But if I listened to that first chef who told me I had no right to take that job, I wouldn't have that mindset.
Yeah, you've got a fighter mindset. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, you got to. And the culinary business is changing, which is a good thing. I'm like Generation X, so I came up in the old school kitchen. My first job, I went to the chef. Hey, this guy told me to fuck off, and he's like, "Well, you probably deserved it." And now it's like, let's go to HR. We can't talk like that. That's not appropriate language. So even though I kind of came up in that old guard, there needs to be a change in the industry to where it's not a pride that you work 80 hours a week and your car breaks down on the way because you can't afford to fix it. But I'm putting out the best food that's out there. Yeah. So the whole change in the industry has kind of coincided with the change myself to where it's more about yourself.
Yeah.
There's a huge substance abuse problem in the industry. I mean, I've worked with many alcoholics, and because that's what happens when you work to 80, 90 hours a week or 70 hours a week. And so now there's kind of a shift to where it's about like being a better person, treating people better, and really like your personal self, which like I said, coincided with kind of my head change after reevaluating my life, being stuck on a couch for 2 months.
Do you find yourself spending more time cleaning your pool than you spend swimming in it? Then you need to get in touch with Flamingo Pools. Flamingo Pools is your go-to swimming pool maintenance and repair company in the East Valley. Whether it's weekly maintenance, repairs, green to cleans, or one-time cleanings, Flamingo Pools is there to take care of you. Here's a few things that makes Flamingo Pools stand out from the crowd. When you first sign up for service, they'll give you a free complimentary inspection of the pool to make sure everything is running smoothly. They'll also email you a service report with a picture attached after every visit so you know when your pool has been cleaned. They also offer a mineral treatment, which will keep your chemical levels down, allowing you to have a healthier bathing experience. At Flamingo Pools, they know that your pool was made to be enjoyed, so let them handle the rest. Check them out at azflamingopools.com or give them a call at 480-422-6013. Mention this podcast and get your first month of weekly maintenance free. That's azflamingopools.com and 480-422-6013.
Let's talk a little bit about the food.
Yeah.
So you do this thing called lechon, which is a Filipino roast pig. So, and from what you've said earlier, you cook it on site. So, walk us through what that's like. So let's say that we're having something at my house, and you're gonna cook us this pig. So let's kind of walk us through that process, so our listeners.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to show up about 7 hours early. And I have a portable charcoal rotisserie grill. I have two of them, actually. They're about 6 feet long. So I have a trailer. I got the Lechon one wagon out front. The Lechon wagon is what I like to call my Honda minivan with the Lechon one license plate on it. So I'm going to show up. We're going to start the charcoal. We always let it burn for a good hour. When you use all natural charcoal, you got to let it all burn until it's all white. To really get the heat, I'm going to put the pig on and we're going to roast. It's a really big show. And then it takes about 5 hours to cook it. We're going to get that skin nice and crispy. And what we usually do is we present it in a traditional Filipino way, a kumain style dinner, which kumain means eat with your hands. So we lay banana leaves on the table, a row of rice down the middle, and I'm going to lay all the other food around the rice. And then I'm going to lay all the other food around the rice. We're going to have a lot of lumpia, which is a pork egg roll, a lot of barbecue skewers, from pork skewers, chicken skewers, shrimp skewers. We're going to have some noodles on there. And it's all going to be piled on. And then I'm going to put the whole pig right on top.
The whole pig?
The whole pig right on top. Everybody's going to take a picture of it. And then I'm going to cut it. Cut it to order. So as you're coming through, I have this whole pig that I'm chopping and cutting it into pieces and handing it to everybody as they come through our Combined style buffet. And for Arizona, this is really kind of, a lot of people, think it's exotic, and I'm trying to normalize it. In my wife's town, there's more places to buy whole pig chopped than there are Starbucks, McDonald's, and Burger King's put together in the valley.
Wow.
You're never more than a quarter mile away or maybe an eighth of a mile away from a whole roasted pig. And it's part of the culture, and it's part of the everyday lifestyle. My wife's town's known for the #1 pig in the Philippines and in the world. So some of the affluent people from the capital of the Philippines will fly down, get a pig, put it on an airplane, and fly back. Right. So you actually have like pig service, airplane service there. And then you come here, and it's not really known.
Right.
You take a food that 9,000 miles that's super popular. Anthony Bourdain went over there. He said it was the #1 pork he's ever had. Time magazine called it the #1 pork. And you come here, and there's a few places that do it well, but it's not mainstream. It's not known to the majority of the people, and it should be. I mean, vice versa. Fried chicken in my wife's town is huge. Fried chicken started here, and it's huge over there. So why can't something that's huge over there be big over here?
Yeah. So besides the charcoal, is there anything else that you do to kind of personalize the flavor of your lechon?
Yeah, we prepared the Cebuano style. We grow our own lemongrass. We use really fresh lemongrass to put it on the inside. We put a little bit of calamansi, which is a Filipino citrus that I grow myself too. And it's really just kind of a labor of love. The recipe is my recipe. That's the thing about Filipino food, is there's no real... It's not like French food. If you prepare a demi-glace, there's a Bible demi-glace recipe. You might have a variation of it, but you have the recipe on how to make it. There's no lechon recipe. It's really how your family makes it. So my lechon recipe is a variation of all the lechon that I tried in the Philippines. And I kind of pick the best part of each one when I flavor it.
What's the taste of it compared to just like, pork that you get at the store?
It's going to be an unbelievable experience. The first time I cooked it at Hot Noodles Cold Sake, the Phoenix New Times critic, Chris Malloy, he called it... He ranked it one of the top 10 bites of 2019. Wow. So here I was. I served the dish one time, and I'm right up next to the 5-star restaurant in the same article. I mean, I wasn't even a business at that point. So the flavor, it's a little bit fatty, soft, tender, but every piece of that pork is going to taste a little bit different too. The pork belly has a little bit more of the spices in it because that's where all the juice is going to be in the center.
Gotcha. It's
a little bit fattier. Your leg is going to have a little bit less fat in it. And some pieces are going to be a little bit more chewy, a little bit more, tender, maybe a little bit more drier.
So when people are coming through the line, they just kind of describe what they want, and you cut the piece that fits their desire?
Usually, I have some diehard customers. I usually cut from the center out. Most people really like the pork belly. So most of my customers, usually about 20 to 30 people show up before I start cutting it. So people know that it's really the first people in line get the best cut. Pro tip.
Remember that when you get
right. Yeah. First in line. It really sounds like there's an art to cooking it the right way. Did you learn this by going to the Philippines and watching or helping someone do it? Or how did you kind of learn how to, perfect the cooking process?
I learned it by messing it up, by making a lot of mistakes and everything, And my original plan was to go to the Philippines. We did cook it in the Philippines, and I cooked it at home a couple times. It's a little bit different than when you're cooking it 5 times a week. So I really had to learn, and it was a struggle, And the thing about the lechon is it's a very important. It's not food. I'm not serving lunch or dinner. I'm serving the centerpiece.
Right.
In the Filipino culture, if you have any kind of party, you have to have a lechon. It's really not a party. I've had people I had somebody that ordered one from Amsterdam. They were flying into town. I had somebody from Cebu from the Philippines order one for the family and paid for it online. And so it's the equivalent of a wedding cake, or it's the equivalent of a venue for the wedding. I've had people call me and sorry, I'm not available that Saturday. I am the next Saturday, and they'll change the party. So there's a lot of pressure, and there's been 5 times I completely messed up the pig, ruined the pig, and I had to give a full refund, and I almost quit the business. I mean, I take so much pride in what I do. I put so much effort in what I do, and you hit roadblocks, and this was a major roadblock that I hit, and I didn't know how to overcome it, and it's to the point where I lost, like over $2,000. I'm a small business, at that time I wasn't doing $2,000 a week, and I gave over $2,000 in refunds. It's like, and I got to the point where it's like, we're not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to pay you to do this. That's stupid, and I didn't know how to overcome that block, and I just had to kind of go back to my notes. I had to reevaluate my technique. As a business owner, you start to sell on easy street a little bit. And what had happened was I had diverted from the original technique. And the road I was on was only going to take me to a B performance. And a few times it was going to give me an F performance. But I was never going to cook a great pig on that road. And I wasn't going to be able to be confident. There was a wedding. I messed up a pig for my own family, for my brother-in-law's grandson's baptism. I mean, you talk about a heartbreaker. You show up with a bad pig, So
is the bad pig overcooked?
No, it's the skin. I am graded 90% on the skin. The skin has to be crispy. It has to be perfect. And the technique I did led the skin to turn into a black leather, soggy, unedible. And it affected the quality of the meat. It affects the way that the meat's cooked. So instead of taking this beautiful crispy skin, I'm taking it looked burnt. It wasn't burnt, but it was just the way, it's the way that it cooked, that it turned dark. And it's not presentable. So here's a wedding cake I'm taking that is like melted, that the tiers are collapsed over. It's the same equivalent. And you put that up there, and it's like, no, So I ruined it, and being like, that's the name of my business, I had to, it was a major roadblock. And I work in a shared kitchen, so now not my coworkers, but my peers are seeing this too, it's embarrassment. And I didn't know how to overcome it, so I went back, I looked at my notes from the ramen shop. I had to reevaluate my process. I diverted from my process without knowing it, and I started to go down the wrong road. So I had to go back to my notes, really look at everything, and now I'm on the right road. So now I'm putting out A pigs, and they're not. I mean, of course, they don't all come out exactly how I want them to, but now, when they come out, when I'm not happy with them now, they're better than before when I was happy with them, if that makes sense. The level has gone up.
And does the kind of pig that you buy make a difference? Do you source pigs from a specific breeder that produces a certain texture and flavor profile? Or?
That was one thing I looked at when I was messing up the pigs, and it's an answer I don't completely have answered. I use 2 purveyors. I use McReynolds Farms, and I use a second purveyor. And the pigs from McReynolds Farms always come out great on me. As a chef, you can blame the product, but that's the last thing you want to blame is the product. Mm-hmm. So it was a technique issue that I was having, but I don't know if the type of pig had a correlation with it or not. So I'm only getting it from McReynolds Farms now because the technique I use works great with them. With the second purveyor, it was kind of questionable.
Yeah, no, I was wondering that too, just because, like you mentioned, it's not it's not a very common thing to cook full pigs like this. So is it hard in the first place to get a hold of inventory?
It can be a little bit hard and expensive, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I have half of what I'm doing in a week in business in inventory. You know, you have to stock up on the pigs and keep them, you know, to make sure you can get them.
Yeah.
And that can add up.
For sure. So do you serve and provide other food items besides the lechon?
Oh yeah, we provide a whole range.
Okay.
So lechon kind of means two different things. Lechon means roasted, and then lechon baboy. Baboy means pig.
Gotcha.
So lechon baboy is the whole pig. But generally, if someone says we're going for lechon, they're going for the pig. That's the king of lechon.
Right. Okay.
Excuse me. But then we do make lechon manuk, which is a whole roasted chicken. We do subuchon, which is rotisserie pork belly. So my whole bit, and we do a lot of other food too, like pancit noodles, siksik, which is a crispy dish that I make from a pork head that we cook for 8 hours, 3 different ways. We do barbecue skewers. But generally, my main business is based off of this one piece of equipment that I have.
And talk to us about your customers. Is it, dominantly Filipinos that find you, or do other people hear about it and see it on Instagram and want to try it out for their own party? Yeah,
I would say the Filipinos are the bread and butter of our business, but it really kind of depends. One thing I learned when I first opened the food truck was I had an all Filipino design, and I went to an ex-military guy who designed the wrap on my food truck, and he came back with like an absolute all military design, possibly racist. But I was like, hey, that's a little too much. But what he said was he wanted to appeal to the 80% of the population. So what we did was I made him tone down that like way too military design, and he made me tone down my way too Filipino design and kind of met in the middle. So I really try to market my food to 80% of the population. Uh-huh. When we do catering, the whole pigs, it's predominantly Filipinos.
Yeah.
But then when we serve in front of like a brewery, this it's a wide mix of people.
Yeah. And tell us a bit more about your marketing. What else do you do to kind of, find your customers? I saw that you're super active on Instagram. You have TikTok. Is there something in particular that you find, helps you find your customers? I don't know if you do any, paid ads, or if your website helps you out as well, or
the website has been really amazing. That's gotten me way more business than I could have ever expected. When we first started, we were at food festivals. I didn't have a website, and we were selling out, and I was a little bit cocky and didn't think I would need a website. Mm-hmm. And then when the pandemic happened, now all of a sudden I'm trying to find these customers. We're not at the festivals.
Yeah.
I was really lucky. I was part of the Mesa CARES Act, and they built me a webpage through the act. And it was Golden Goose Digital Marketing. And that webpage has gotten me business from Panama, from Montreal, Canada, from Amsterdam, from the Philippines. It has gotten me a tremendous amount of experience. And my webpage, I need to update it, but it's really important because now when someone searches for Filipino food or whole pig, I'm going to come up more often because I have my webpage. And when they look at the webpage, it makes my business look a little bit more professional.
Nice. So it sounds like you're pretty happy where you're at with business right now in terms of, catering. Do you have any plans of opening an actual restaurant? Is that a desire of yours, or do you like to keep it more mobile?
We definitely want to open up a restaurant.
Okay.
It was kind of a scary thing because right now, like, if we're not open, I'm not paying rent. I don't have a power bill.
Right.
I don't have employees. I do have people that help me out.
Yeah.
We have a great cashier, and I want to give them a lot of credit. Don't get me wrong, but I don't have somebody working. 10 people working 40 hours a week, mm-hmm. and I don't have nobody solely relying on me for the income.
Yeah,
and that's kind of a lot of pressure, and that's my next step in growth. It's to overcome that fear factor of having it kind of easy right now as far as like not having those hard cost pressure.
For sure.
To once it gets to the point where like I have to open the restaurant, then I'm going to.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't take another life-altering event to force you into it.
Yeah, I don't have too many other good needs, so.
So I'm curious with that, kind of based on your opinion, because a lot of people, when they want to start something within the food and beverage industry, they don't know if they should start with a food truck or start with catering or go straight into a restaurant. So since you have experience in two of the three and looking at the third already, what's kind of your opinion on, is there in your opinion, is there a best route to go, or does it kind of depend on the person or on what they're selling?
I would say the food truck is one of the toughest routes. You have two categories, the mobile vendor and brick and mortar restaurants. The expense of working in a tent's a lot easier. The startup cost is a lot less.
Yeah.
Also, if you have the same food and one's in a food truck where nobody can see it being made, and one's in a tent where everybody can watch it being made, the person in the tent's going to make 10 times the amount of money. So, for me, the food truck was a limitation. I would never have a food truck again. I have no desire to ever have a food truck again. It was just really a limitation. So the next step would be to brick and mortar. Yep. But if you're just starting out, you want to have, for me, I wanted to have an out, plan B, because, and that's something I need to get over, because when you go to the brick and mortar, it's a higher capital expense.
For sure.
And that can devastate you more personally if you do fail. So as a personal entrepreneur, I need to get over that fear factor a little bit of being able to put myself out there. Because, I know I have a proven concept, and I'm going to let it organically grow. But that's going to be my biggest challenge, is to really be, okay, I know I can do this. I know I don't need plan B.
Awesome. I'm curious, what, out of everything you do, what's your favorite part of running the business?
Cutting the pig.
Cutting it?
Yeah, cutting the pig. Hey, out of everything I do, I do a lot of work before the customers come. It's the middle of summer. It's 110 degrees. I'm roasting a pig outside. I'm sweating.
Oh, wow.
I clean up before everybody comes. Don't get me wrong. But it's when I'm in there and we have a line of people and I'm chopping the pig and the cutting board's going boom, boom. That moment is my happy spot, and it makes all the tough work, all the long hours that I have put into it worth it for that 30 minutes right there.
Yeah. It's nice that you have that's guaranteed every day. After all the hard work that you put in, that no matter what, you're always going to be able to have that at the end of the day and cut it. And
hopefully you get a little sneak of the pig.
I do, because people want to see you taste it. I always give it a little taste.
Right.
But when you put that pig, when I pick up that pig and the people are like, great. We cooked on Main Street a couple weeks ago. And there was people walking by, they just stopped, and everybody gathered around, and they came, and everybody ordered, and everybody has a personal experience with the whole pig, whether they're from Idaho, from the Philippines, from Colombia, from Cuba. Not everybody has experience with the whole pig, but many people of different cultures have a personal experience with roasted pigs. Uh-huh. And this brings back the memories. Even though it's Filipino style, it brought back my friends' memories of growing up on a pig farm in Mexico. Another girl from the commissary brought back memories of she grew up in Colombia. And it's all brings it back.
That's really cool. Is there a special knife that you have to use to cut it?
Yeah, I have to use a machete. And it's kind of funny. It has, it's not a machete. It's a cleaver. A cheap $20 cleaver. I went out and bought a $170 cleaver, and the $20 cleaver works better.
Really?
Yeah, so that's another point. Just get what works, man.
Right? Yeah. Awesome. Well, Brian, you've shared so much awesome advice and stories with us today. I'm curious if you had one more piece of advice to share with us that you haven't touched on already before we close up, what would that be?
I would say listen to everybody, take everybody's advice, and take nobody's advice. So... yeah, and what I mean by that is you want to take everybody's advice. You want to listen to everybody, But you don't want to take anybody's advice. Everybody's going to tell you how to run your business. But maybe there's a little piece of information you can learn from every single person and take that advice. And when people tell you you can't do something, you can do it. You don't have to listen to them.
No, yeah, I love that. I think there's a really good balance between, listening to people and taking, bits and pieces from what everyone has to say, but not following every single person's advice on what they tell you to do and how they tell you to live your life.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of learned that in the food truck. This guy's like, you got to go cook here at this big stop. That's a lot of people. And I went there and there was a lot of people, but it wasn't my crowd. And I lost money. And at that point, I'm like, this guy doesn't know. I mean, he knew to be around people, but he doesn't know the demographic.
For sure. Awesome. Well, before we close up, Brian, we have a quick little game that we're going to play with you.
Yeah.
So how it's going to work is we've got a list of 20 questions that we're going to ask, and you've got a minute to answer as many of them as you can.
All right.
And so we'll see kind of how you square up against some other guests we've had on the show, how many you can get. Just going to pull that up. And let me know when you've got it. Cool. Do you want to start us off?
Yep.
In 3, 2, 1.
Your dream vacation.
Philippines.
First thing you'd buy if you won $1 million.
A house in the Philippines.
Favorite hobby.
Cooking lechon.
If there was an Olympic competition for everyday activities, what activity would you have a good chance at winning a medal in?
Cooking lechon.
Song you've been jamming to lately.
Bob Marley. Could This Be Love?
If you lived to be 100, would you rather have the mind or the body of your prime self?
The mind.
Your favorite holiday.
Christmas.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Vanilla.
Favorite fictional character.
I don't know.
Favorite smell?
Not lechon. Charcoal.
What's your nickname?
I don't have one.
Pet peeve?
People who shouldn't be in kitchens that are in kitchens.
Favorite restaurant.
Hush Public House.
Well, not the record on answers, but maybe the record on most answers that are involving your business.
Yeah, I was wondering on the favorite song question if you're going to come up with a song that had Lechon in it.
Yeah. Would have got a special prize if I did all
that.
Right, yeah. Awesome. Brian, let our listeners know, I'm sure everyone's pretty hungry right now for a roasted pig, so let everyone know where they can connect with you, find out more about you, maybe contact you if they want to have you come by.
The best way to really keep up to date is on Instagram, Phx Lechon Roasters, Phx Lechon, Lechon Roasters, or you can go to our website, phxlechon.com. You can call me at 602-410-8115 or Brian at PhoenixLechon.com for the email. Sorry, Brian at PhoenixLechonRoasters.com.
Gotcha. Yeah, got all the contact info.
There we go.
Sweet. Okay, well, thanks again, Brian. We definitely loved having you on and learned a lot from you today.
You left me starving, man.
Yeah.
I can smell the pig.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, we'll catch y'all next week. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. Just a few things before we go. First off, if you or someone you know is an entrepreneur in the East Valley, we'd love to have you on the show. Please get in touch with us by emailing us at localhustlerspodcast@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at localhustlerspodcast. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for the latest news and updates. Also, if you enjoyed the show, please take a few seconds to rate and review and hit that subscribe button. It lets us know how we're doing, it helps us grow so we can reach more locals, entrepreneurs, and help small businesses grow. Thanks, guys.